Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Erica, and I will be moderating our live session today with Steve Gray, our Unemployment Insurance Agency Director. So with that, I'm going to start with the first question we received, and then we'll turn it over to Steve. So Steve, our first question came in, can we please get help with stop payment indicator?
Yeah, the stop payment indicator. There's a number of people that have seen that, and it's holding up people's payment. And so what that indicates is there's some issue from, in all likelihood, a past claim that you filed for unemployment benefits. That's going to require that we give your case an individual review. So we're focusing all our efforts on reviewing those cases for people that haven't been paid. And then we'll be able to clear those as soon as we can get to them.
All right, thank you. The next question says, I made more than 1.5 times the WBA, so I did not qualify for the $160 or $600 for the last 5 weeks, even though I normally make significantly more work than I do now. Is there anything I can do?
Right. No, I understand. There's been a significant reduction in your pay, but even with that reduction, if you're, if you're still making over 1.5 times your weekly benefit amount, then you're not going to be eligible for that period of time. Now, if you're talking about pandemic unemployment assistance, then there's a possibility that you were approved originally for just the lowest amount, which would be $160 a week. And if you submit that additional information to go with your pandemic unemployment assistance claim, we'll review that. And if it turns out your weekly benefit amount would be more, then we'll go ahead and you would be eligible for unemployment benefits. Then we'll go back and issue those to you later. So I don't think there's anything you need to do right now. In all likelihood, you're not going to be eligible for anything if you're making more than 1.5 times that weekly benefit amount. The only thing would be if the information you submitted with your pandemic unemployment assistance application would raise your weekly benefit amount, then you could possibly be eligible, and we'll be doing that calculation and evaluation. And if it turns out you are, we'll issue the back payments.
All right, and this customer says, my non-monetary issue detail status says no misrep determination issue misrepresentation. What does this mean?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, what the status says again?
Sure, the status says no misrep determination issue. Okay,
and so usually if its status says that, then there's a mismatch of information that's either coming from you and an employer or a previous employer, or from the wage reports that we get every quarter. So it's causing your case us to flag it and look and see whether or not there's some misinformation that we've gotten. And so the case is being held just like it would in a normal non-monetary case for our review.
All right, and can you tell us what is the open non-monetary issue?
Absolutely. So that I know that's been kind of been plaguing a number of people. So we divide eligibility into sort of 2 parts. The first part is what we call monetary eligibility. And with that, when you initially file your claim, we take your Social Security number and compare it to the quarterly wage reports that every employer submits on every employee to see whether or not you have had enough wages basically in the past year to qualify for benefits. And if you have had enough wages, then we issue you a monetary determination saying, hey, you passed that test. It'll usually, the monetary determination will also say that you've, how much benefits you're eligible for a week and when you should certify. Then the next thing we look at is, your non-monetary eligibility. And that is looking at two parts. The first part is the reason that you became separated and became unemployed. And so most people now have become unemployed because they've been laid off. And so if you're laid off, that's not disqualifying. The other piece that we then look at is after you certify for 2 weeks, you answer a series of questions. And if there's any answer to any of the questions that you gave that raises an issue, then we would flag that as a non-monetary issue and have to review that. So the good thing is if your benefits are being held for a non-monetary issue, you are our primary focus right now. We're dedicating all of our resources to reviewing those cases and getting them out the door and getting the release and getting them cleared. So if we're also doing those in reverse chronological order. So people that had an initial claim filed in March, we're looking at those cases first and trying to get those resolved, and then working our way forward in time. And also remember that no matter when you're approved, you're going to get backdated, so that we'll be able to backdate your benefits. Now I know that's a little consolation to people that have been waiting weeks, but you have not been forgotten, and we're working on your cases of the oldest first.
All right, thanks for that. The next question from Tiffany: how do you fix a disqualification week issue? They've sent no letters to tell us why.
Right. So first of all, and this is just a general apology for everyone that has to ask a question on this. I mean, our system, when we created it and put it in place in 2013, it's got a lot of really good technological features, and it's really good for handling a big volume of cases. We had a few issues for a few hours way early on in the process, but as a practical matter, we've been able to handle a large volume. And it's also good on our end because it's pretty easy for our staff to use to make decisions and to do all the things that they need to do on the back end of the system. However, it's not the easiest to use on the claimant side, and I want to apologize for that right now. One of the first things I realized when I started in June of this year, we just hadn't, there's a lot of places where it's just not clear what's happening, or we don't communicate with claimants in the system as to what's going on. And so we've been able to get around that without a problem, just because, we've got a good phone system and we've always been able to handle the volume of calls that we had. So the theory was, well, if the claimant doesn't understand something that's going on, they can just call us and we'll tell them exactly what's going on. And the people that have, regular unemployment claims, they all know what's, they know what a lot of these terms mean. But for people that this is their first claim, boy, it's been really frustrating, and we apologize for that. So one of the good things about this is, boy, all the questions that you submitted and all the, screenshots that you've sent have really flagged for us, the things that we need to clarify, so people can understand what's going on and they don't need to call, and they can take care of it themselves. And so as we get all these claims processed and get people paid, we're going to start looking at fixing some of those things on the system that you guys have highlighted that are a problem. So that stop payment indicator is basically an indication that there was a problem with either some information that you provided during the certification or at the time of application, and it's a case where we're going to have to review it. And as I said before, we're going to go back and get those in reverse chronological order.
All right. I was denied state benefits, but approved for PUA. I've certified for 6 weeks and keep getting ineligible weeks. What am I doing wrong, and how do I fix it?
In all likelihood, you're not doing anything wrong. There's something that's triggered a non-monetary issue, and as long as you've responded to everything under your alerts that you can respond to, then you've done everything that you can. And it's an issue that, you know, some piece of information, either when you filed the claim or when you, you know, when you filed your weekly certifications, raised the question, and we're going to have to go back in and declare it and make sure that, you know, make sure that you're eligible and then release it.
All right. I did not originally approve my income for the PUA, and now I did. It has been in processing for the last week. Does that mean I was not approved for more than the $160, or is it still not decided? I'm not sure on how to know.
Okay, so if you could read that first part of the sentence again.
Sure. I did not originally approve my income for the PUA, and now I did. It has been in processing for the last week. Does that mean I was not approved for more than that amount, the 160?
So initially, if you didn't provide your income, it's just going to approve you for the base amount, but it should issue you that base amount. And so if you've gone through and it says that you've been approved for PUA, it's going to issue you the base amount, but you have to go in and do the weekly certifications. And so there'll be a link there when your certifications are available to go ahead and provide the certifications. And then once you do that, assuming there's no other issues, then it's going to release your payment. And then if you've uploaded the additional information, we'll go back and look at that in, like I said, reverse chronological order. And, you know, if it turns out that you're eligible for more PUA, then we'll just make up the difference for the weeks that you should be eligible for it. But it shouldn't hold up you getting the 160 base amount plus the 600.
All right, our next question comes from a 1099 insurance benefit broker who's asking, who states, I am restricted from meeting with employer groups and clients in person. However, I have existing income coming in from business on the books prior to the pandemic. Do I have to report those earnings?
Yep, you're supposed to be reporting those earnings just like you would if you were on a regular state claim. So when you do your certifications, you should be reporting the earnings.
All right. How long do you expect it to take for a response to a message on MyWham?
Weeks, unfortunately, right now. I don't want to give people false hope, but you know, once we clear these older adjudications, then we'll start turning toward more attention towards responding to the MyWham messages. The good thing about a MyWham message is, you know, it's preserved in the system, so we know that you contacted us or we know that you supplied us some additional information. One of the things I think is best for right now is if you made some mistake on one of your certifications and you're worried that you're going to be accused of fraud because you answered the question wrong or whatever, you can send us a MyWham message saying, hey, I tried to get a hold of you, your phone lines were busy, but you know, here's this correction that I made, it was just a mistake. And then, you know, you won't be charged with fraud. But you know, I wish I could say we're going to get to all those MyWham messages quicker, but you know, like I said, we're focusing most of our staff attention right now on resolving those cases that are held, because there's still people that are a number of weeks out there that haven't been paid yet.
All right, the next comments are from Justin, who states, I had to certify 6 weeks, 3 were approved and paid, 3 were rejected, but all were the same answers. I received an email saying to recertify, but the weeks are not in my account to be recertified. What should he do on that one?
Right. So I think that's an old message, and there's 2 things that you can do. If in all likelihood that's going to get those weeks are going to get cleared when we go back through and do and resolve some of these outstanding issues. But if you want to protect yourself, you could appeal those weeks. There should be an option to appeal if it says you know, that you weren't allowed those weeks. And you can also send a message on MyWham to preserve the indication that you don't think that there was a problem.
All right. And if I have earnings of 1.5 times my state weekly benefit as a 1099 self-employed, do I still get the $600 federal portion?
No, if you have to be eligible for either pandemic unemployment assistance or state benefits, and if you're making more than 1.5 times your weekly benefit amount, then you're not going to be eligible for the PUC for that week either.
All right, and Kurt is asking, I believe he wants to know if a pension affects unemployment benefits.
It does, and that's why during your weekly certification, I think we asked you specifically if you're getting paid a pension amount. There's a couple of, when you report your pension, there's a couple of questions that it asks about, like where the pension comes from. Was it contributed to by your employer, or did you contribute to it? And if it was over half by your employer, then in all likelihood we're going to count that pension against you. If it was mostly contributed to by you, then typically we don't count that, because it would be like counting your income, twice. And so it's a prior earning, and you invested in it, and so but you just got to make sure you answer the questions about the pension, that you declare it when you do your weekly certification, and you answer the questions about it, and then our system should be able to do the calculation from there.
All right, and the next one is from Ian, who's asking about a note that says there's an additional claim required, but he doesn't feel he has an additional claim to make or has already made them. What should he do?
Right, that's another, one of those parts of the system that where I feel like we put messages up there that make sense to us on the inside, but they don't make sense to the people on the outside, and that's one of them. So when an additional claim is required, what's happened is, and it usually has to do with earnings, during your weekly certification, if you report that you've had more than 1.5 times your weekly benefit amount in earnings that week, it'll hold your case, and then it'll say additional certification or additional claim required, and then you have to go back out to the link and click on the same one, the same language, which this is I'm sure this is maddening to people, but it's the same language that you did when you filed your initial claim. So you click on that, and then there'll be a series of questions about your employers that you need to fill out, that'll help us evaluate your eligibility for that previous week.
All right, and the next one, what about people who are out of weeks but still within their benefit year? I just hit week 26.
Right, so if you just hit 26, then there's 13 weeks of the CARES Act extension benefits, which we call PEUC, and so you'll certify for those the same way. You'll get paid the same amount, and then we just triggered on in Michigan something called extended benefits, which for most people will in all likelihood be an additional 10 to 13 weeks of benefits. So there's two different extensions, and all this stuff should happen automatically. So you don't have to worry about it. But if you're done with your 26 weeks, there'll be another 13 weeks, plus another 10 to 13 weeks, which gets us to probably another 26 weeks. And then if pandemic unemployment insurance is still available at the end of both of those extensions, then you could conceivably be eligible, and you're still unemployed at that point, you could conceivably still be eligible for 26 weeks of pandemic unemployment assistance. But that pandemic unemployment assistance is scheduled to turn off at the end of the year. So I don't know how the weeks all would add up, but there's additional weeks after your 26 weeks expired available.
All right, and I think you touched on this in previous responses, Steve, but just to make sure it's clear for everyone, we have a question. Somebody would like to know if you have a specific order for which you're reviewing cases, because they personally have not been helped for a month now.
Right. Yeah, we do. So, like I said, we were focused in the first, weeks on making sure that everybody could get their claim filed, and developing these new programs and getting them up and running, and getting so we could get money out the door on those. So we had a lot of our attention were on the phones and taking claims where people couldn't file over the internet. But since the number of new claims have dropped, and we, over 95% of the people are able to file online, we've reserved the phones. We've taken a number of staff off the phones, replaced them with new contract people, and then took those experienced people off the phones and put them directly onto these cases that need individual review. And that's what they're doing. So we're focused on those. We're doing, 7 days a week, overtime, with everybody, evaluating those. And so, and we're going oldest to newest. And so if you had an initial claim that you filed in March, we should be getting to yours soon. I don't want to speculate as to how quickly we'll get there, because that's going to fluctuate based on the number that we've got.
All right. This person is self-employed with disqualification weeks on an approved PUA claim. Please advise if this is being addressed system-wide, or if we need to call in for a unique resolution with a rep.
That is being addressed system-wide. So yeah, those number of weeks that are there, we're working on fixes that I think will address a block of those at once, and so hopefully they won't even need an individual review. We hope to have those in place in the next few days. So stay tuned on that. But there's nothing additional that you need to do at this point.
All right. And Eloise has stated, I have been waiting 7 weeks, approved for PUA, and now all the weeks I have certified are ineligible. I need help.
Yeah, that's the same situation. So we're going to be looking at a system that's going to a system update that's going to hopefully clear out a lot of those. And so help will be on the way, hopefully, in the next few days.
All right. This person says, I applied March 31st, and when I log in, it just says your claim is still processing. What should I do next?
So if it's either a state claim or a pandemic unemployment assistance claim, you just need to keep an eye on that alert section on MyWAM, and if there's any links under that alert section that you need to, then you follow it. In all likelihood, there'll be a certification link that comes up there soon, possibly next Sunday or Monday, and just do the certifications, and then it should take care of itself.
All right. I am being furloughed 1 week a month for April, May, and June, and I'm eligible for unemployment for these weeks. Do I just waive the weeks I receive my regular wage?
That's the best way to do it. That way you stay connected with the system. And so, yeah, you can just go in when you certify, and there'll be the first question that they ask you, I believe, on the certification is whether or not you're going to claim these weeks or not. And so you can waive the weeks, and they'll be available to you to claim later if you need them.
All right, and Jen sent us a question. How do we stop UI if we get called back so we can avoid open claims if we have to go back on?
So the claim will if you just don't certify, after 4 weeks, the claim will, basically go into sort of hibernation, so to speak. And then when you come back in, you'll be asked to reopen it, but it's not, it's not that you have to avoid having this claim on the system or shut it down in some way. You just need to, make sure that, if you go back and you got wages for part of a week and you want to claim benefits for that week, that you report the wages earned when you certify for that week.
All right, and this next question is about federal benefits under the CARES Act. This customer is wanting to know, is FPUC only for certain people?
So the PUC is that extra $600, and it's available only to people that are eligible for a pandemic unemployment assistance or regular state unemployment assistance benefits. So as long as you're getting one or the other, then you're going to get that $600 a week payment, and that's going to go through the end of July.
All right, and what does a disqualification week mean on a PUA?
Yeah, there's something in that the information that you provided during your certification that makes us need to look at it and see whether or not you're actually eligible for benefits for that week. So we're, like I said, that's part of the cases that we're reviewing. We are prioritizing the people that haven't been paid anything, and so if you're in that category and you filed a claim a while ago, we're going to get to you soon.
All right, and I must have accidentally said I will be receiving retirement benefits or a pension during my furlough when I first filed my claim. How do I simply say I'm not receiving retirement so I can get my benefits? I can't get a hold of anyone. Yeah,
so there's no way to, once you've certified and submit, to go back in and fix it by you. Not like you could go back in and update that or whatever, because we make decisions on eligibility and payment, based on the answers that you provide when you submit it. Now, it doesn't mean you can't fix it, and it can't be fixed, and it will be fixed. The way the system is set up, if you need to fix something like that, you give us a call and we'll straighten it out. Well, right now, you got 150,000 people calling a day, and you can't get through to do that. So the best thing to do, and I think I mentioned this earlier, is to file that web notice that says, hey, I made a mistake on this particular week's certification. I meant to answer no to this question but I accidentally put yes. Can you fix that? And then, as we go back through and review the web notices, we'll be able to get to that.
All right. And what does it mean when it says certification for this week was waived?
Right. It sounds like when you answer the question, that first question, whether or not you were waiving benefits, that usually that means that you said yes there. And so that may have been a mistake, and that, and what you need to do is go back in and send a notice saying, hey, I didn't mean to waive these weeks. I answered yes to waive it. And the good thing is you didn't lose that week. And once we're able to go in and change that certification for you, then you'll get paid.
All right, and we have time for just one last question here. My pay has been cut by 25%, and I can telework from home full time. It appears I am eligible for PUA. If so, how do I answer the following certification question about being back to work full time? Would this cause complications with receiving my payment?
So if you're working full time, no matter where you're working full time from, then you need to answer that you're working full time, and in all likelihood, you're not going to be eligible for that week. If your hours were cut by 25%, then it doesn't sound like you're working full time. so you wouldn't need to say that you're back to work full time, but you would just have to report the wages that you earn, and assuming that it's 1.5 times less, then you're going to be eligible for some amount.
All right, well, that's all we have time for today. And I just want to thank everybody who joined us and submitted their questions. We hope you found this helpful. Is there anything you wanted to add before we leave, Steve?
No, I appreciate the urgency that there's a number of people. I know we've been out in the media saying that we've paid 1 million people so far, and but that's little consolation to you if you're one of the group that hasn't been paid yet. And so I just want you to know you're not forgotten. You're definitely on our radar. You're the focus. You're right in the center right now, and we're devoting all of our attention to making sure that we can get you paid as long as you're eligible, and hopefully that'll be cleared up pretty soon.